Welcome, dear friend, to this quiet space we have prepared. We are so pleased you have chosen to settle in with us for a while to find a moment's gentle peace, much like discovering a warm, sunlit patch in a leafy glade where tiny, unheard melodies play. It is our fondest hope that this story, with its soft unfolding of simple wonders, will act as a gentle companion, helping to quiet the mind and invite the softest of slumbers. And if this gentle unfolding brings you comfort, perhaps you might like this story and subscribe to our channel, so we may share more such tranquil moments together. Think of this not so much as a grand adventure, but as a gentle stroll through a rather lovely garden, just as the dew is settling, or perhaps a quiet sit by a softly crackling hearth with a warm drink cradled in your hands. Our aim is simply to weave a gentle tapestry of words and sensations, a soft murmur to accompany you as you drift, allowing the day's concerns to float away like thistledown on a mild breeze, leaving behind only a profound and restful calm. Chapter 1. The first drops on the sill. The sound began almost imperceptibly, a faint tapping against the window pane like tiny hesitant fingers seeking entry. Martha paused, her hand hovering over the warm curve of her teacup, and listened. Yes, there it was again, a soft, persistent pitter-patter against the glass of the bay window overlooking the garden. Rain. She hadn't expected it today. The morning had dawned with a soft, pearly gray sky, but one without the heavy promise of a downpour. A gentle smile touched her lips. An indoor day then, a day for quiet observation and the unique comfort that only rain could bring. She drew her worn woolen cardigan tighter around her shoulders, though the cottage was comfortably warm. It was more a gesture of settling in, of embracing the gentle enclosure the weather offered. From her favorite armchair, upholstered in a faded floral print that reminded her of pressed flowers and old books, she gazed out at the garden. The first drops were landing on the broad leaves of the hostas near the stone path, each one a tiny dark punctuation mark. The colors of the late blooming roses seemed to deepen instantly, their pinks and creams becoming richer, more saturated against the dampening green foliage. A faint, earthy scent began to drift upwards, the smell of dry soil, receiving its first taste of moisture. Martha took a slow sip of her tea, a simple breakfast blend, its warmth spreading pleasantly through her chest. The familiar ritual grounded her, a small anchor, in the quiet flow of the morning. Outside, the rain was becoming steadier now, no longer hesitant taps, but a soft, continuous drumming on the roof tiles, and a gentle sighing sound as it filtered through the leaves of the old oak tree at the edge of the property. She watched a robin take shelter beneath the dense canopy of a rhododendron bush, fluffing its feathers against the moisture. The world outside the window seemed to be drawing inwards, softening its edges, muting its sounds, save for the rain itself. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway seemed louder now, its steady rhythm a counterpoint to the rain's gentle percussion. Martha leaned her head back against the comfortable wing of the armchair, feeling the slight give of the cushions beneath her. She allowed her eyelids to drift closed for a moment, simply listening. The rain on the roof, the soft gurgle as water began to find its way down the drainpipe, the distant whisper of wind brushing through the highest branches of the oak. It was a symphony of quietude, washing away the need to do, to strive, to be anywhere else but here. She felt a familiar sense of release settle over her, a loosening in her shoulders, a softening around her eyes. The gentle weight of the day seemed to rearrange itself, becoming less of a schedule and more of a quiet unfolding. There were small tasks she could attend to, letters to answer perhaps, or a chapter of her book to finish. But there was no urgency. The rain granted permission for slowness, for simply being. The air in the room felt cool and fresh near the window, carrying the faint, clean scent of the rain-washed world outside. Opening her eyes again, she noticed how the light had changed. The pearly gray had deepened, but it wasn't dark. Instead, it was a luminous, diffused light that filled the room evenly, casting soft shadows and highlighting the texture of the wooden windowsill, the smooth glaze of her teacup, the intricate pattern woven into the rug beneath her feet. Droplets clung to the outside of the window pane, distorting the view slightly, turning the garden into a watercolor painting where colors bled softly into one another. She picked up her teacup again, cradling its warmth in both hands. The heat seeped into her palms, a comforting sensation that traveled gently up her arms. She watched a single drop trace a meandering path down the glass, joining others in a growing pool on the sill outside. There was a unique beauty in this stillness, this gentle pause offered by the sky. Martha took another slow sip of tea, feeling wholly present, enveloped in the soft sounds and sights of the beginning of a rainy day, a quiet invitation to simply be. Chapter 2, Reflections in a Teacup. The rain showed no sign of stopping. Indeed, it seemed to settle into a steady, calming rhythm, a continuous soft drumming that became the background music to the cottage's quiet interior. Martha decided a second cup of tea was in order, something herbal this time. She padded softly into the kitchen, her bare feet cool against the worn linoleum floor. The simple act of filling the kettle, the click of the switch, the gentle hiss as the water began to heat. These small sounds were amplified slightly in the quiet house, becoming part of the day's gentle soundscape. She chose chamomile, the small dried flowers, releasing a faint apple-like scent as she spooned them into her favorite earthenware pot, the one with the slightly chipped spout that somehow made it feel more comforting, more familiar. As the kettle reached a boil with a soft rumble, she poured the steaming water over the herbs, watching them swirl and unfurl. Placing the lid on the pot, she carried it back to her armchair, along with a clean mug. This one a pale, watery blue. The ritual felt soothing, a small act of care for herself. Back by the window, she poured the fragrant pale gold liquid into her mug. Steam rose in a delicate spiral, mingling with the cool air near the glass. She held the mug, letting the warmth seep into her hands again, a familiar comfort. Outside, the garden path was slick and dark with rain. A small puddle had formed near a dip in the stones, and she watched as raindrops struck its surface, creating brief, widening circles that overlapped and vanished, only to be replaced by new ones. It was a mesmerizing, ever-changing pattern, a tiny transient artwork created by the weather. Her gaze drifted from the puddle to the reflection in her teacup. The pale liquid held a distorted miniature image of the window, the gray light, the blurry shapes of the garden beyond. It was like looking into a tiny, tranquil world. She took a slow, careful sip, the warm floral taste soothing on her tongue. The heat spread downwards, a gentle wave of comfort easing through her. She felt her shoulders relax further, sinking more deeply into the embrace of the armchair. The steady drumming of the rain on the roof felt like a gentle, protective presence, cocooning her within the cottage walls. Thoughts drifted through her mind, soft and unhurried, like the clouds moving slowly across the gray sky outside. A memory surfaced, another rainy day, years ago, spent reading aloud to a young nephew, his small hand resting trustingly on her arm. Then a recollection of walking in a gentle drizzle through a park, the scent of wet leaves, sharp and clean. These memories weren't tinged with sadness or longing, but rather a gentle appreciation, like finding smooth, sea-worn pebbles on a beach. They felt distant, yet comforting, part of the quiet tapestry of her life. She noticed the way the light caught the tiny hairs on a fern frond on the windowsill, each one beaded with condensation from the moist air. The luminous quality of the gray light seemed to highlight textures, the weave of the cushion beside her, the grain of the oak windowsill, the slight roughness of the earthenware mug in her hands. It was a light that invited close observation, a quiet appreciation for the surfaces of the everyday world. The only sounds were the rain, the clock's tick, and the soft sound of her own breathing, easy and slow. Leaning forward slightly, she traced a pattern on the misted part of the window pane with her fingertip, clearing a small circle through which to view the garden more clearly. A sparrow was taking a vigorous bath in the puddle on the path now, splashing water droplets in a tiny, energetic flurry before shaking itself off and flying back to the shelter of the bushes. Martha watched, a quiet smile playing on her lips. Even on a day that encouraged stillness, life continued its small, essential routines outside her window. She settled back again, taking another sip of the warm chamomile tea. The patterns in the puddle continued their dance. The reflections in her teacup shifted with the slight movement of her hand. The world felt calm, contained, and deeply peaceful. The rain provided a backdrop, a constant, gentle presence that allowed her thoughts to roam freely, without pressure or demand. She felt grounded, held by the simple comforts of warmth, shelter, and the quiet beauty of the rain-washed moment. Chapter 3. The Sound of Water Through Leaves. Feeling a desire for a slight change of scenery, Martha carried her now half-empty mug of tea towards the small sunroom at the back of the cottage. This room, with its glass roof slanted toward the garden and windows on 3 sides, always felt more directly connected to the outside world, especially during rain. As she entered, the sound of the downpour immediately intensified, becoming a richer, more complex tapestry of sounds, the steady drumming on the glass panels above, the deeper resonance of drops hitting the flat roof of the main cottage nearby, and the distinct rustle and drip as water navigated the dense foliage just beyond the walls. It wasn't loud or intrusive, but rather an immersive, calming symphony. The air in the sunroom was slightly cooler and held the distinct green scent of damp leaves and potting soil. Martha kept her modest collection of houseplants here, sturdy ferns unfurling new fronds, a small collection of succulents in terracotta pots, and a leggy geranium still offering a few pale pink blossoms despite the season. She set her mug down on a saw-weathered wooden table and moved among her plants, her fingers gently testing the soil in each pot. Most were content, benefiting from the naturally humid air the rain provided. She picked up a soft cloth she kept nearby and began to gently wipe the broad leaves of a peace lily, removing a fine layer of dust. The leaves felt cool and smooth beneath the cloth, their deep green color appearing even more vibrant in the soft gray light filtering through the glass roof. As she worked, slowly and methodically, her movements fell into rhythm with the rain outside. White, full, white. The simple, repetitive action was strangely soothing, requiring just enough attention to keep her mind gently focused, but not so much as to feel like a chore. Looking up through the glass roof, she could see raindrops streaking down the panes, distorting the view of the oak tree's upper branches swaying gently in the breeze. Occasionally, a gust of wind would send a cascade of accumulated water sheeting down the glass with a slightly louder whoosh, followed by the gentle dripping as it found its way to the gutters. Down below in the garden, the leaves of the larger shrubs bowed slightly under the weight of the moisture, releasing small showers onto the plants beneath them whenever the wind stirred them. She paused by the succulents, admiring their varied shapes and textures, the fleshy, geometric patterns of an echeveria, the fuzzy coating on a kalanchoe leaf, the perfectly symmetrical rosette of a sempervivum. They seemed entirely self-contained, holding their own reserves, quietly resilient amidst the downpour. Martha ran a finger lightly over the cool, waxy surface of one sturdy leaf, appreciating its quiet strength. There was a lesson there, perhaps, in quiet self-sufficiency. The soundscape in the sunroom was particularly peaceful. The dominant sound was the rain itself, but beneath it, she could hear the gentle gurgle of water flowing through the downspout just outside the wall, and the almost imperceptible sigh of the wind moving through the wet leaves. It felt like being inside a gentle waterfall, surrounded by the soothing sounds of moving water without actually getting wet. She felt the coolness of the air on her face, a refreshing counterpoint to the warmth still radiating from her cup of tea, and she returned to it. Sitting for a moment on the simple wooden bench placed against one wall, she closed her eyes again, letting the sounds wash over her. She focused on the sensation of the cool air, the feeling of the smooth wooden bench beneath her, the gentle weight of her hands resting in her lap. The rhythmic drumming on the glass roof seemed to pulse gently, a natural cadence that invited relaxation. She pictured the water soaking into the earth outside, nourishing the roots of the plants, replenishing the soil. There was a sense of quiet productivity in the rain, a necessary process unfolding without fuss or hurry. She finished the last of her chamomile tea, the warmth now faded, but the floral scent still lingering. The simple act of tending her plants, surrounded by the sounds and sights of the rain through the glass, had left her feeling calm and centered. The sunroom, even on a gray day, felt like a small haven, a place where the boundary between inside and outside blurred gently, allowing the peace of the natural world to seep in. She lingered for a few more moments, simply listening, before deciding to return to the main room, carrying the quiet rhythm of the rain with her. Chapter 4. Pages turned in the gray light. Returning to the main living area, Martha felt drawn towards the sofa. It was old and comfortable, draped with a soft knitted throw in muted shades of green and cream. She plumped the cushions, their slight resistance offering comforting solidity, and retrieved the throw, wrapping it loosely around her legs as she settled into the corner. The air here felt warmer, drier, cocooning her once more after the fresh coolness of the sunroom. The rain outside continued its steady, gentle rhythm, a constant, soothing presence beyond the walls. On the small table beside the sofa lay a book of poetry she'd been dipping into over the past few weeks. It was an old favorite, the pages soft and slightly worn at the edges, the spine creased from countless readings. She picked it up, the familiar weight comforting in her hands. The gray, diffused light filtering through the window was perfect for reading soft even, without the harsh glare that sometimes came with bright sunshine. It illuminated the page gently, making the black ink stand out clearly against the creamy paper. She opened the book, not to any particular place, but letting the pages fall open where they would. Her eyes fell upon a short verse about autumn light, its imagery resonating with the quiet mood of the day. The only sounds in the room were the soft rustle of the page as she turned it, the distant, steady drumming of the rain, and the quiet ticking of the clock in the hall. Occasionally, she would pause in her reading, letting a line or an image settle in her mind, gazing absently towards the window where the rain-streaked garden offered a soft, blurry backdrop. Time seemed to slow down, stretching out into long, peaceful moments. There was no need to rush, no demands on her attention other than the gentle cadence of the verses and the soothing sounds of the weather. She felt the soft weight of the throw over her legs, the comfortable support of the sofa cushions behind her back. With each quiet breath, she felt herself sinking a little deeper into relaxation, the peaceful atmosphere of the cottage weaving itself around her. The world outside, with its potential busyness and noise, felt distant and unimportant. She read for what might have been an hour, perhaps longer, drifting peacefully through familiar poems and rediscovering nuances she hadn't noticed before. Sometimes a particular phrase would spark a quiet reflection, a gentle meandering of thought that flowed easily without effort before she returned her attention to the page. The act of reading felt like a quiet conversation with the poet across time, a shared appreciation for moments of beauty, stillness, or gentle melancholy. A log settled in the dormant fireplace with a soft thump, a sound that punctuated the quiet without disturbing it. Martha glanced toward the hearth, imagining the warmth it would provide on colder evenings. For now, the soft warmth of the throw and the gentle heat from the cottage's radiators were enough. She snuggled a little deeper into the sofa corner, pulling the throw up slightly higher. The texture of the knitted wool felt pleasant against her skin, soft and yielding. Outside, the intensity of the rain seemed to lessen slightly, the drumming softening to a more gentle patter. The light remained consistent, a soft, unwavering gray luminescence. She could see the droplets clinging like tiny jewels to the leaves of the rose bushes near the window, catching the faint light. The world seemed washed clean, hushed, and waiting. Martha closed the book gently, placing her finger to mark her place, and rested it on her lap. She didn't feel tired, but deeply relaxed, her mind calm and uncluttered. She simply sat, listening to the softening rain, feeling the quiet contentment of the moment, the rhythmic sounds, the cozy warmth, the gentle light. It all combined to create a profound sense of peace. It was the kind of stillness that felt restorative, filling the quiet spaces within her. She let out a soft, almost inaudible sigh, a gentle release of breath that carried with it the last vestiges of any lingering tension. Here, wrapped in warmth, listening to the rain, she felt completely at ease. Chapter 5. Evening Stillness and Petrichor. As the afternoon gently eased towards evening, the rain underwent another transformation. The steady drumming and pattering softened further, gradually fading into a fine, almost silent mist. Though the drops were barely visible now, the air outside remained heavy with moisture, clinging to every surface in a silvery sheen. Martha, still nestled on the sofa, noticed the subtle shift in sound. First the cessation of the rhythmic drumming on the roof, replaced by an almost profound quiet, broken only by the occasional drip from the eaves or a nearby branch. A little while later, drawn by a subtle change in the air, she rose from the sofa, folding the knitted throw carefully and placing it over the armrest. She walked toward the window in the main room and hesitated for a moment before unlatching it and pushing it open just a crack. Instantly, the room was filled with a cool, damp breeze carrying the unmistakable scent of petrichor, that unique, clean, earthy fragrance that rises from the ground after a long rain. She inhaled deeply, letting the refreshing scent fill her lungs. It smelled of wet stone, damp soil, and washed leaves, a fragrance both ancient and immediate. The world outside seemed to glow with a soft, ethereal light. The heavy gray clouds had begun to break slightly, though the sun remained hidden. Instead, a diffused, silvery luminescence bathed the garden, making the wet leaves glisten and highlighting the dark, damp bark of the oak tree. The colors, muted under the rain, now seemed clearer, yet softened by the moist air. It was a moment of transition, the world holding its breath between the rain and the coming twilight. Feeling a gentle stirring of hunger, Martha moved toward the kitchen. The simple act of deciding what to prepare for her evening meal felt grounding, another quiet ritual in the day's gentle rhythm. She decided on soup, a simple vegetable broth she had made earlier in the week. Pouring some into a small saucepan, she placed it on the stove over a low flame. The gentle clink of the ceramic bowl against the countertop, the soft whoosh of the gas igniting, the eventual quiet bubbling of the soup, these sounds blended seamlessly with the lingering quietude of the post-rain evening. As the soup heated, she stood by the kitchen window, which looked out onto a different part of the garden, mostly herbs and a small patch of lawn. The mist still hung lightly in the air, softening the outlines of the rosemary bush and the feathery fronds of fennel. A blackbird hopped across the damp grass, probing for worms brought to the surface by the rain, its sleek feathers dark against the deepening green. The quiet activity of the bird felt perfectly in tune with the peaceful atmosphere. She ladled the steaming soup into a simple earthenware bowl, the savory aroma rising to meet her. Carrying it carefully, she returned not to the armchair, but to the small wooden table near the window where she often ate her meals. Sitting down, she took a moment simply to appreciate the scene, the warm bowl cradled in her hands, the soft light filling the room, the quiet garden resting peacefully outside the window pane, still beaded with condensation. She ate slowly, savoring the warmth and flavor of the soup. Each spoonful felt nourishing, comforting. The silence was no longer filled with the sound of rain, but with a deeper stillness, the quiet settled into the earth after its drink. The grandfather clock chimed softly in the hall, marking the hour with a gentle resonance that faded quickly back into the quiet. The day felt complete, its gentle arc from the first drops of rain to this peaceful evening stillness feeling natural and right. As true twilight began to descend, painting the edges of the sky with faint hues of lavender and rose visible through breaks in the clouds, Martha finished her soup. She rinsed the bowl in the sink, the sound of running water briefly filling the kitchen before silence returned. She felt a deep sense of content, a quiet gratitude for the simple beauty of the day, the soothing rain, the comfort of her home, the moments of reflection, the refreshing scent of petrichor. The luminous stillness of the rain had given way to the luminous stillness of the evening, leaving her feeling calm, rested, and utterly at peace.